Hello, welcome to Prajim Technologies. I am Venkat. This is part 57. In this session, we'll understand what is this ToString method, where did that come from, and the reasons to override that. Now, within .NET Framework, we know that every type directly or indirectly inherits from system.object class. And if you look at system.object class, it has four methods which are actually available to every type within .NET. For example, let's say I have a variable of type integer. And now look at this. When I say number dot, you see these methods dot toString, get type, get hash code, and the equals. These four methods are actually defined in the base system.object class, and through inheritance, they are available to every type within .NET. Alright, now in this session, we will see the reasons to override the toString method. Now look at this. If I want to print this number, now what am I doing here? I'm actually converting this integer into its string representation. And if I try to print the string representation of an integer, look at what's going to happen. It will actually convert that properly, I mean, as we expect. So here it's an integer format, but here we are converting that to string. The base implementation of the toString properly formats this integer in its string representation. But however, when we have custom types, for example, let's say I have a class called customer. So I have a class called customer, which has got maybe a first name and a last name. So first name property, which is auto implemented. Similarly, let's have a last name property, which is also auto implemented. Alright, so very simple class which has got two properties. Now if we create an instance of this custom type, customer C1 is equal to new customer, and obviously we can initialize it with first and last name. Let's say first name is Simon, and maybe the last name maybe Simon 10. Alright, so we have our custom class object now. Now if I say c1.toString, okay, let's look at what's going to happen. Okay, now you might guess what might actually happen. Look at this. If it's an integer, there's no doubt, okay, this is an integer format. It gives us the string representation when we actually print that. But this is a complex type. The customer class is a complex type. Now, here we made the class very simple, which has got just two properties. But in reality, it might have more properties, integer, customer ID, date of birth, etc. Now, when we say, okay, c1.toString, what should it do? Which property should it print? It will not have any idea whatsoever. So obviously something strange might happen when we actually run this. Look at this. When I say, okay, convert this customer object to its string representation, what's happening? It is actually printing the namespace dot the type name. What is the type of the C1? Customer, and this customer class is present within Prajim namespace. So it's actually printing the namespace dot customer, which is nothing but the type name. So the default implementation of the toString that's provided by the base system.object class will actually give you the complete name of the type, including the namespace. That's what we get with the default implementation. But let's say, the requirement, you know, for your project is in such a way that when somebody calls toString on an object, they want something, for example, maybe within here, what I want is I want maybe the customer's last name, comma, and then space, and then his first name. Okay, is it possible to do that? Absolutely. What you got to do here is to override the toString method. Okay, let's see how to do that. Okay, to override that, it's pretty simple. We have already understood that every type within .NET Framework, directly or indirectly inherits from system.object, and system.objects actually provides four methods, and out of those four, you can actually override three of them: equals, get hash code, and toString. Okay, in this session, we'll learn how to override the toString method. Look at this. The moment I type override and press space, the IntelliSense shows up the methods that are available within this class to override. Okay, so toString. So the moment I select that, I get the syntax of the overriding. All right, now here what we can do is, you don't have to use the base implementation. If you want it, you can do it. We know that the base implementation, if we just run it like this, look at this, the base implementation is nothing but it prints the complete class name, including the namespace. Okay, now I don't want the base implementation. Instead of that, I want the last name, comma, space, and then the first name. So this class last name plus concatenate comma with space and then the first name. All right, so now if we run this, you should say last name comma space first name. So you can customize this however you want depending on the requirement of your project. Okay, generally it makes sense to override the toString method, to give you the meaningful representation, string representation of a complex type. Actually, you can either say c1.toString, or to convert an object into its string representation, you can also use the convert class.toString and then pass it your custom type. So now if we run that, we get the same output, except that we are using convert class here instead of the .toString on that object. Okay, remember that you can override the toString method to give your complex types string representation a meaning, rather than using the default base classes implementation, which will give you the type full name, namespace dot the type name. All right, that's it in this session. On this slide, you can find some resources for ASP.NET and C# interview questions. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.